Welcome to Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. And today, we're going to be talking about the Big E, the Emperor of Mankind. But before we get into the video, take the wikis with a grain of salt. I also do a regular biblical video on Mondays, and then Tuesdays is a funny little skit that I'm doing with Warhammer 40k bolt gun. And also every Thursday is the Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible series. And then Saturdays or Sundays will be the short, it's like a short narration of the Thursday video. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. The Emperor of Mankind, often referred to by his faithful as the God Emperor, the Master of Mankind, or simply the Emperor, and who sometimes referred to himself as Revelation, as in the last church. Known to the forces of chaos as the false emperor or the corpse emperor, is the immortal perpetual and psyker who serves as the reigning monarch of the Imperium of Man, and is described by the imperial ecclesiarchy and the imperial cult as the father, guardian, and god of humanity. The chaos gods and demons of the warp refer to him as the anathema, for he is the greatest embodiment of universal order in the galaxy today and the most potent foe of chaos in existence. He was and remains the most powerful human psyker to have ever been born. He has sat immobile, his body slowly crumbling within the golden throne of Terra for over 10,000 standard years. Although once a living man, his shattered, decaying body could no longer support life, and it is kept intact only by the cybernetic mechanisms of the golden throne and a potent mind itself sustained by the daily sacrifice of 1,000 lives. 1,000 psykers. The Emperor chose to sacrifice his immortal life at the end of the Horus Heresy in the service and protection of mankind. To humanity's countless trillions across the galaxy-spanning Imperium, he is nothing less than God. Through his Imperium, humanity is united and remains one of the most powerful intelligent species in the Milky Way galaxy, as well as its most dominant in terms of both population and territory held. United under one government, mankind is able to survive the myriad deadly threats it faces from aliens, the forces of chaos, and the traitors, heretics, and mutants that lie within the Imperium's boundaries. The Imperium's rule, carried on in the Emperor's name since the end of the Horus Heresy by the High Lords of Terra and a multitude of imperial organizations, has been long, oppressive, and necessarily harsh. Yeah, that's for sure. It has also resulted in technological and cultural stagnation and a regression into tyranny, superstition, and religious obfuscation and intolerance that would have horrified the Emperor. Though he is no longer responsive to external stimuli, the Emperor still lies at the very heart of the Imperium's continued existence. Although he cannot be directly involved in the day-to-day running of humanity's galactic government, his existence on the Golden Throne is vital to sustaining the Imperium, since his powerful mind's presence in the Immaterium maintains and directs the Astronomicon. Basically, this is where the navigators are able to navigate the warp. The psychic beacon that makes possible faster than light warp travel and is vital to Imperial shipping, transportation, commerce, and communication. However, the maintenance of this beacon requires the aid of other psykers, whose life forces are slowly drained away by the Emperor to power the beacon. 1,000 psykers a day give their lives to maintain the Emperor's psychic strength. He is said to still guide his race through the psychically reactive divination tool known as the Emperor's Tarot, which select psychers can consult to gain a glimpse of the future in the Emperor's will. He is also said to constantly battle the chaos gods in the warp and prevent their further intrusion upon the material universe. His mind must remain vigilant at all times throughout the entire Imperium to safeguard the human race and to offer his protection to the faithful. Above all else, it is mankind's collective belief in the Emperor's divinity that serves as the greatest protection from chaos and other hideous dangers that plague the galaxy. As the Imperial Creed has taught for over 10,000 standard years, the Emperor protects. Alright, we're going to get into a little bit of gray areas here, but if you haven't watched the Major Kills video yet, so basically, I guess some of the War in Heaven lore has been retconned, and supposedly now Slaanesh and the Chaos Gods were back then during the War of Heaven and all that. Anyways, I guess, but I don't know why they feel like they have to do this, but why do companies feel like they have to change lore? Well, really, it's because they want to put their narrative in, but their narrative doesn't fit the lore, so they got to change the lore. But anyways, I'm getting into a rant. I apologize. But anyways, the Emperor is the collective reincarnation of all the shamans of Neolithic humanity's various peoples, the first human psychers. The foul warp entities that would become the four great powers of chaos had not yet fully formed when the Emperor was born on old Earth during the prehistoric times before even the Age of Terra, somewhere in ancient central Anatolia, modern Turkey, in the 8th millennium BC. But even before the birth of the Emperor, as humanity grew and progressed, the Immaterium began to become increasingly disturbed by the dark undercurrents of humanity's collective psyche, and the shamans began to lose their former ability to reincarnate into new bodies. Instead, upon dying, their souls were consumed by entities and demons of the warp. Eventually, the shamans of humanity, unable to reincarnate, would become extinct, and without the shamans and their psychic abilities to guide the race, humanity would inevitably fall prey to the corruptions of chaos, just as eventually happened to the Eldari. In these ancient days, all the shamans of the earth gathered in a grand conclave to decide what must be done to stave off the day when they had all been consumed by the warp. In the end, the shamans decided to pull their collective psyche energies by reincarnating as a single soul in a single human body to create an individual they called the New Man. The thousands of shamans, as one, took poison, and as one, they died, their souls flowing into the Immaterium in a rush of psychic power that overwhelmed those demons who sought to feast upon it with the cleansing, purifying fire, a flame imperishable that became one soul out of many. A standard year later, the child who would become the Emperor was born in a Neolithic settlement of Anatolian herders and farmers of normal mother and father, with normal brothers and sisters. His psychic power was so great that its energies altered his genome and physiology in the womb and rendered him immortal, so he would no longer need to reincarnate and could not be assaulted by the demonic creatures of the Immaterium upon his death. As he grew older, his potent psychic powers began to manifest. For 38,000 Terran years, he wandered over the earth and throughout human history. He traveled among the different peoples of mankind, while he had first been only an observer of mankind's triumphs and follies. He soon began to help where he could, using his ancient wisdoms to spread efficient government, crop management, animal husbandry, technology, and peace. He used this influence carefully, at first adopting only the guise of a normal man and without revealing his true nature. As the millennia passed, the man who would become the emperor watched the human species develop. He traveled the entire globe, watching and helping, sometimes adopting the persona of a great leader or advisor. In times of trouble, he became a crusader, a religious leader, or even a messiah. At other times, he remained a backstage contributor to events and advisor to kings, a court magician, a pioneering scientist. Many of the guys he adopted were humble. Others became monumental figures of world history or religion. At times of crisis, he would be there, steering humanity along the narrow path to survival. The only one he could see. So, hold on. Where is it? Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to take that back. We're just going to move on because I want to save that for another video, actually. So, now we're going to move on to the biblical side of things here. Now, I'm not saying one thing or the other, or that, the emperor is this guy, Of course, they're not. They're not exactly the same, but I'm just using Warhammer 40k lore to help explain the biblical side of things, right? So, anyways, Isaiah 14:4-6. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, How hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. Interesting. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with the continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and none hindereth. This is the Lucifer chapter. There's nations there, and these rulers. So, interesting. Isaiah 14:12-16. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? So, in Hebrew, this is Hallel ben Shahar. Hallel means the shining one. It does not mean morning star. It means the shining one. Interesting, right? But also, Shahar is a Canaanite god. Satan is not the son of a god, right? He is one per se. And it also calls him a man right here. Is this the man that made the earth to tremble? So, interesting. Okay, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, or Hallel ben Shahar? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weakest the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of congregation in the sides of the north. Doesn't this sound familiar? I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. I want you to pay attention to this part here too. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms? Okay. Revelation 17:8. Why are we going to Revelation 17:8? Well, here's why. The beast that thou sawest was, so he was before the time of John, right? And is not, he's not in the time of John, but shall ascend, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. So we have here this guy going into the pit. Now he's coming up out of it and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not, and yet is. So kind of like this immortal thing going on too, right? Okay. 2 Thessalonians 2:4. Okay. Let no, or 2:3-4. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there coming a fall away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, the son of the morning. Now anyways. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So, now this is different from the emperor. The emperor's not trying to be God, kind of the opposite, right? But just interesting stuff, right? Nobody talks about this, by the way. And it's right there. But it sounds familiar, doesn't it? I'll just say that. Now, I'm going to give you a little cliffhanger to what I'm going to be talking about next week. So, Revelation 17:12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These, I'm going to say, in my opinion, are his 10 sons, right? The beast's 10 sons. And I'm going to get into that next week. So, why? Hold on, we're going to get into the God Emperor. Okay. Okay, now we're getting back to Warhammer. An ironic twist of fate for a man who fought throughout his life to move mankind away from superstition and religious faith. The Emperor of Mankind was already being worshipped as a living deity before the start of the Horus Heresy. The Primarch Lorgar and the Wordbearers Legion had penned a book, the Lectitio Divinatis, which laid out a compelling case for why the Emperor of Mankind was not a mere man, but a god made flesh. It held that no mortal being could have accomplished all that the Emperor had in uniting the techno-barbarian tribes and nations of Terra, and then reuniting much of human-settled galaxy under his rule. Nor could a simple human being possess his extraordinary command of psychic abilities, his advanced scientific knowledge, which displayed an understanding of the universe on a primal level, or his immense compassion and goodwill towards all mankind. The argument proved persuasive, and before the Great Crusade had even ended, a number of different cults dedicated to emperor worship had already sprung up, using the Lectitio Divinatis as their sacred book, and often adopting the name of the tome for the name of their faith. The worship of the emperor as God was strictly forbidden under the doctrine of the imperial truth, and was a serious crime. The same crime that ultimately led to the humiliation of Lorgar and the Word-bearers upon the world of Kur. I do believe that's how you say that, but I'm not 100% sure. So if somebody in the comments could let me know. Their turn towards the worship of the chaos gods instead to meet their need for faith. So while Lorgar ultimately repudiated these Lectitio Divinatis and replaced it with the chaos-corrupted Book of Lorgar, millions of other men and women during the dark days of the Horus Heresy increasingly turned to the worship of the Emperor as a source of inspiration and strength to survive the many horrors at that time. The demonstrated power that devout worship of the Emperor gave his followers to protect themselves and others from the demonic entities of the warp only further the spread of this new religion. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Thank you guys for watching, and you guys have a wonderful day.